Hey guys, welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Kelly and you found me here on Pick and Stitches, and I have a great pattern and it is going to be fun and free from Fat Quarter Shop. This is called the Vintage Christmas Tree from their Classic and Vintage line. So let's jump right on in and I'll show you how we put it together. Hey guys, you have to excuse the chaos in my sewing room right now. It has been a whirlwind, crazy chaos, but I am slowly but surely getting 100% caught up. This is the latest pattern release from Fat Quarter Shop for their Classic and Vintage series. Now, the pattern that they have in online, let's see. They have a lap quilt, a king quilt, a door banner, and pillows. That's right. Okay, here we go. So this was originally going to be the door banner. I decided to have enough fabric to make the 3 panel, which would have just hung from a door and been 3. But I had enough blocks left to make the 4th. And actually, I ended up having some extra that I wasn't counting on. So I wasn't reading my pattern like I should have. I probably would opt for the 9 patch one. These are really big blocks. It actually is quite easy to put together. And there is one little ruler that you're going to want to have on hand. They do have a template in the pattern, but I think it's so much easier if you just get the acrylic ruler. And you can use these to make any of your half square rectangles for diamonds and stuff like that later. Now, it will only make this one size, but for me, I think it's nice to just have one ruler that you can do it with and make it easy. So let's jump right on in and I'll show you how I put this block together.
Okay, so I've gone ahead and decided that I'm just going to make this door banner size. The great thing about this is you guys, we're only going to use 3-inch strips of fabric. So you can take all of your leftovers. I think this would be a really fun one to do with your leftover quilt backings, anything that you had that kind of falls into this tree or Christmas format. So we've got our strips of our background and each of our colors, and then we're going to head over to the machine. Okay, so just to give us the idea here, we're going to use our 1/4-inch guided foot or any 1/4-inch foot that you like to sew with. I went ahead and grabbed one of our backgrounds for each color and then one of each color strip. So both of these are all going to be with the fabric, and we're just going to drop our stitch length because we are going to press these seams open. I am going to go ahead and stick with my 60 glide thread because I just love it. It does have a tendency when you're pressing open to be a little bit more problematic, but I still like that I don't have to clean out my machine that much, so I'm just going to be really careful when I press. And we'll do the same thing for our other color. Again, right sides together. Okay, now we're going to take this over and press the entire thing open. So first we'll set our seam. And then I'm going to get my pressing bar and try this on a long piece. So I feel like a lot of times I like to press one way and then press it back open, but if I'm actually going to use this bar, I feel like it's easier to start without having it pressed first. So we'll just hold that open and give it a nice press, and I'll meet you guys back at our cutting station. Okay, so we'll do this for all of our strips. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces sewn together and pressed. I did press all of my seams open, and what we're going to do is cut with this special ruler. So this is called the half rectangle trimmer. It's by the Fat Quarter Shop. I definitely recommend it. There is a template in the pattern that you can cut out and use, but I just feel like this is a lot easier to use. So I'm going to keep my pattern handy because this is one of those steps that's really easy to get turned around in. So you're going to do half of yours facing one direction and half of them facing the other direction so that you can make the tree shape. So what we want to do is I'm going to cut this entire row just like it's shown here, and I'm going to look at my white on top. I'm going to think about my ruler being kind of kicked up to the side. And then after I make this first cut, it will be easier to align. So I'm just going to slice this off, get this kind of out of my way. And this is where this spinning mat, rotating mat does make life a little bit easier. We're just going to rotate all the way around and trim it up. And this is going to help you get those perfect corners as you continue to sew. So you do have enough scraps here. I did kind of test it out. We can absolutely make some little 1.5 inch squares with that if you are one of the people that likes to make a scrappy quilt at the end. So now I've got my white on top again. Ruler's going to be kicked up this direction, but you can see it's lining up with this edge, and that's what I want. I want this line exactly on my seam, and it's not actually going to be corner to corner, and that's what you want. You want it to fall that way so that when you're sewing your tree together, your corners will match up. So we'll go across this entire length and do this side, and then we'll swing around, and on the next one, we will go the other way. Okay, you see how I picked this up and I started to line it up and I started to make that mistake. So you want to make sure that this outer edge is lining up with your ruler because I almost cut that. It's really easy to make a mistake, so just go slow. Okay, now we've cut all of those. We've got one side done. So you're going to take half of your strips and cut them that direction. Then you're going to take the other half of your strips and definitely make sure that you're flipping the page on your pattern. Whoops, where'd I put it? There it is. So that you're cutting the other direction. I'm going to leave it sitting right here next to my cutting board so I make sure and do it right. So this time, instead of leaning this way, I'm going to be going the other way. So we'll do that for the other half of our colors. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces cut out and ready to go. They're going to look like opposites like this, and we're going to use them to lay out our trees. Let's do a green one to start. So our first row is going to have 2 of these piece Ds across the top, and this is going to be a very, very large block. And then we're going to do opposite corners. So I'm going to just sew this row first. I know a lot of times I like to work vertically, but on this one, I'm going to just keep it simple. So then our next one is going to have the same tree in the middle, and then we're going to build it out one wider. So then we're going to go with our second largest background squares, and we'll stitch those on. And then we'll make our triangle again in the middle, and I'm not going to have room for all 4 of these rows on this design board, but you guys get the idea. So we're going with slightly wider, And I've got the next size of my blocks. Hello. And so we'll go ahead and sew these together, and then I'll do the fourth row and add it on. So over here at the machine, I do still have my 1/4" seam aligned foot. I am using my 60 glide thread that I've been liking so much, but of course you can always use your favorite thread if that's a cotton or whatever makes you happy. And then I'm just going to line those up. If you're a pinner, you can pin, but that's the beauty of this tool that we were using. The ruler cuts it perfectly so that it comes out every time. So I do like to sew the middle triangles together first, and then I'll come in and sew my outer edges on. Okay, so that's our row 1. I am going to take this over to the ironing board and I'm going to press this middle seam open, and then these other seams I'm just going to press towards the outside. Okay, now that I have those top 2 rows on the ironing board, I can go ahead and build out the bottom half of our Christmas tree. So we've got one more row. And we're just going to build out each side. And this has our smallest pieces of background on either side. And then our very last row is going to reuse these piece Ds and include just our trunk in the middle. So now we'll head over to the machine and sew each row of this bottom section together. Okay, so that's my far outside left piece, and this is the first triangle. And that's my next one. We're going to have 3 in a row on this one. Three all go in the same direction. We'll check, make sure we like that point. Okay, there's our row 3. Okay, now we're on to our last row, which is our tree trunk. Just keep the trunk in the middle, add on both sides. Okay, so now we'll go press all of these and I'll meet you back at the design board. Okay, so here is what, oopsie, I made a mistake. Can you see it? I forgot to add one side here. Guess I get to rip again. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Easy enough to fix. I'm always trying to rush and I need to just slow down. But if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I have 4 kids, we homeschool, we're kind of running around with our hair on fire all the time. And so if I get a quiet moment in the sewing room, I really want to get like a bunch of stuff done. And I just rush. I just rush too much. But it's an easy fix. Okay, there we go. That looks better. So now what we're going to do is sew these top 2 together. And I'm showing you the back because that's such a pretty pressing job. I'm not always the prettiest presser, as you probably have noticed, but this one I feel pretty good about. So this is going to be what our Christmas tree is going to look like when we're finished. And then we'll have the trunk, which is underneath all this on the back. So I'm going to sew these first 2 and these 3rd and 4th ones together. We'll head over to the machine. Okay, so here's our first 2 rows. And I'm not typically like a really big pinner, but I do want these seams to line up. And because they are all pressed open, I find that they move around a little bit more. That's why I prefer nesting, but that's okay. So I'm just kind of looking to make sure that they're about where I want them. And we'll just throw a couple pins in it. Okay. So that's our first 2 rows. We're going to press those open. We'll do row 3 and 4. So again, you want to make sure you've got them in the right order. You'd hate to attach that to the bottom there. It goes on the top because it's the narrower section. So there is one other pattern that I want to make with this ruler. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description, and I'll pop up a picture of it here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's a really cute diamond pattern, and I was actually thinking about making it with that Krista Mosler ruler that we got in the June Sew Sampler box last year. But you can also make it with this ruler that we have for this one. And so I really like it when you get a ruler and you can use it for more than one project. I don't need to have more things in my sewing room. It is so easy to collect. So you guys will have to tell me if you think this is a cool project to do as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and press these open and then sew the 2 sections together. Okay, so here's our top to our tree, our middle, and then our base. So we're going to just sew those 3 sections together. Okay, so I got my top and bottom sewn together and my tree trunk. Now we just need to press it out. Okay, guys, there is our finished block. I think this is going to be super cute. There's tons of different sizes. They have it set up for pillows, a door banner, a lap, and a king. So you have lots of options. You could make all of your trees different colors. You could go with a 2-tone like I've done here, or you could even do all the same color. You could go super scrappy and make every triangle slightly different. So I think there's a lot of fun ways to play with this pattern, and it's definitely been fun to use this different ruler.
That's a wrap on the Christmas tree from the Classic and Vintage line from Fat Quarter Shop. Again, this is a free pattern on their website. I will put a link in the description. This is really fun because it's not Christmas time and it's kind of fun to do something outside of the normal time. And I've been working with a lot of really bright fabrics and it was fun. I ended up sewing this one out with Lori Holt's Hometown Holiday. Wow, that took me a minute. And then the border that I put on it was a Sweetwater that I had in my stash. And then I added a binding that was another Sweetwater. So I'll get you guys some close-up photos of that. I ended up just doing this text background because it's what I had on hand and it helped me finish it up. And clearly I'm working on the dragon fruit block as well. Okay, that's it for our Classic and Vintage Sew Along. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you do like any of my videos, my unboxings, my tutorials, please do hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. And I really do appreciate it when you guys shop with the affiliate link. That certainly helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It's where you're already shopping anyways. And it just helps the channel continue to thrive. Okay, and until then, I will see you next time.